From across time and space and throughout the multiverse, listen as two generations of comic book readers come together to discuss a single character or event that shaped pop culture as we know it. Let Your Geek Sideshow presents Then and Now with Susan and Kitty. Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Susan.
And this is Kitty.
And today we're touching on the topic of a Marvel mutant whose powers make her misunderstood in many ways. Her powers are absorption and are often dangerous, so she distances herself from others in order to keep them safe. Still, she has the sweet southern charm and will never stop fighting for what's right. I attempted it once. There
I'm very proud of you.
Yeah. Get ready to absorb some new information because it's Rogue then and now.
I contemplated putting the word sugar in that somewhere, but I was
Oh
like,
my God.
Susan's going to kill me if I put that in there.
But she says it all the time.
I think everybody who knows a little bit about Rogue, and if you don't know a little bit about Rogue, then guess what? Now you know.
You're going to learn. Oh my gosh.
Rogue. Okay, so I will admit, because I'm doing the now section, so I do have some really good now stuff for Rogue, but my perception of the character is completely colored by the animated series.
Okay, good.
Oh
my God.
I got really thought
nervous.
I was going to say the live action
movies. You were going to say the live action movies. And you wouldn't be wrong. And there's some good Rogue stuff in there. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have her absorb any sort of, because she absorbs Miss Marvel's powers. And then she can do a whole bunch of other things that Miss Marvel can do. So to me, that's the 90s Rogue. Mm-hmm. 80s Rogue, she debuted as a villain.
No, I did not know that.
She debuted as a villain in an annual. I forget which one. Let me look. It's in my notes. Hold on.
Cool.
It is the Avengers annual. And I mean, if you think about it, her powers could go either way.
Absolutely. But that also lends to the misunderstood factor of are her powers that dangerous that she should be a villain, or is she? Her
powers are really dangerous, and they're really sensitive and very. Her powers are really powerful, but they are. It's a stupid thing. It sounds stupid to say, but they are because she's one of those high level mutants that just she can't control them as well, especially when everything that you touch you absorb in some way or another.
Right. So there's no real scaling it back, just a little light absorption.
Exactly.
And I think for those who may be unfamiliar with Rogue, when we say absorb, she can steal and drain other people's memories and powers, their psyches. She can put people in comas just by touching them.
Yeah.
So when we say absorb, it's absorbing powers.
But it's helpful when you need a mutant to have two duplicate powers, then everything becomes twice that in terms of fighting. But at the same time, it must be really difficult to walk around knowing that every time you touch someone, you will be hurting them, actually.
Yeah. And so that means not even a handshake, how do you do, a light
not even a high five,
not even a high
bump.
Five. Yeah. So oh my goodness, yeah. She can't form some of those connections with people even
because Rogue used to make me so sad. Even as a kid watching the 90s cartoon, it made me so sad to think about she loves this person, but she can't even hug them unless she's completely covered, and she'll never know what it would be like to hold someone's hand that way, or just give someone a hug and know that they're really there.
Mm-hmm. She's always struck me, even with the 90s cartoon. She's a very tragic figure.
Oh, for sure.
But sometimes it's easier to it's not always present. It's not she's always a woe is me character. I mean, she does view her powers as a curse, but she does have that undeniable Southern charm and wit that does play so well off of so many of her teammates.
Oh, I agree. And while she is a tragic figure, she's also an incredibly strong one, because to be able to overcome everything that she has overcome, it takes a strong person to be able to have that type of power.
Absolutely.
Because if you can't have that, you can't have that power without the strength of character. So to me, that's something that I always thought is that she can still love very deeply and connect with her teammates and have these insanely close friendships, and she doesn't hurt them, and she has to keep her distance physically, but it makes her more emotionally open, which is kind of a great example to see such a a present character in a world, like an emotionally present character in a world where, you know, mutants exist and like there's tons of sentinels coming down and there's alternate timelines and there's like, you know, like all these different things like portals and various like dimensions and things like that where you know what I'm talking about. Like
it sometimes
it's refreshing.
It can seem so fantastical that to have a character who is grounded and able to connect with her emotions in that way.
Yeah.
But it also is interesting though that her powers do, because you mentioned mutants exist. Because obviously she is a mutant. To be kind of even a pariah among mutants, or kind of even when she ostracizes herself physically from others, like to be a mutant who's already shunned by society, to have that extra level is something that she has to overcome, and she does with grace and
absolutely
mostly good humor. So if are there any classic moments that you want to?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to like scroll through them right now. Rogue doesn't usually have like a solo type series or title. She tends to work on a team.
Right.
So to me, like, you know, when you have like
even her most recent series was a team up with Gambit.
Like Uncanny X-Men all through the 80s to me is like Rogue's book, even though it's like not actually. But that's always what I think. Anything, I keep bringing him up in various podcasts, but Chris Claremont is a genius and possibly my favorite of all time. But he's Rogue's creator as well. And to think of just someone creating a character that can never touch anybody else is crazy to think about. But like the way she adds to teams, she's irreplaceable, especially on the X-Men team. Like having her knowledge and her availability and her emotional presence and her accountability, because that's the other thing about Rogue is like she has like a conscience, like a very very clear conscience that is always pointed towards something that's like good. So the fact that she's introduced as a villain always like it's like a weird piece of trivia that baffles me to this day. But if you think about it, absorbing the energy and putting people in comas and all that dangerous side of her power absolutely could make someone a villain. But the best,
especially if you see your powers as a curse.
Yes, and she does. But I always think the best heroes and the best villains have like one choice that made them that way. Like the one bad day villain, or the this could be the worst thing that ever happened to me, but I'm choosing to have it not be.
Right.
And Rogue is that character, especially on the X-Men.
Yeah. I mean, in recent stuff, she's been on the Uncanny Avengers team, actually, as part of the Avengers Unity division. And in more modern comics, that unity is not only between humans and mutants, but they're also trying to incorporate the Inhumans, because those are another facet of Marvel society that is misunderstood. So this Avengers Unity division, the series is Uncanny X-Men, but that's what their team is called, the Unity division. They really want to bring together all the different types of Marvel characters, and even the mutants and the Inhumans misunderstand each other.
Constantly,
quite frequently. I mean, unfortunately, for those who are unfamiliar, the process through which an Inhuman is awakened is called pterogenesis, and the process of pterogenesis is lethal to mutants. And so if
someone is born a mutant and then goes through pterogenesis, not so great.
Yeah, they get, terrible things happen. Yeah. But there was an instance recently where the Terrigen mists were clouded over the world, and Rogue had to actually put herself through the Terrigen clouds to save other mutants. And then she had to undergo injections and treatments to stave off. I'm not sure if she contracted the I think it was like Mpox or whatever, but there's different ways that the symptoms manifest in different X-Men. But to save the lives of other mutants, she willingly put herself in danger and then was like, okay, this is something I'll have to survive so that more of my people can withstand and survive in this world.
That's like Rogue in a nutshell. It's like, I will put myself between this and this so that this can happen. Like even when you bring in the movies, like in the Days of Future Past Rogue cut, like she puts herself in danger so that they can continue the mission with Wolverine in the past. So that's just who she is, I feel like. And then if you think about like, you know, the animated series, she was always on the front lines, first running, like even in the credits, she's like the first one running towards them. But
she's always got something sassy to say too.
Oh yeah. Well, she has to. She has to express herself in so many other ways because she lost
so many Southern-isms.
She lost one way to express herself. She has to do it in every other possible way.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I like when she tells Cyclops that and I'm going to butcher the phrase, but it's like, you look more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Like,
oh my gosh.
Just those Southernisms that you're like, wait, what? Oh, wait, that makes sense. But coming from Rogue in the animated series, it's so funny.
That's amazing. I feel like you can't talk about Rogue, though, without talking about like one of the most significant relationships in her life.
I don't think so. Let's
considering that like you were talking to me about her most recent team up, which was with Gambit.
Absolutely.
So how did I haven't read it, so you have to explain to me.
Okay, well, yeah,
the plot.
No. If anyone, and I think because I haven't read a ton of Rogue comics, but as far as I can tell, it's called Rogue and Gambit: Ring of Fire by Kelly Thompson.
Oh, Kelly Thompson,
and the art is by Pere Perez and Frank D'Armata. And it is a mini series, 5 issues collected. The trade is out now, and it is so gosh darn charming. But I felt like I got a really good sense of the character's history because the whole arc deals with memories, and Rogue actually gets this choice presented to herself, and it has come up in the animated series as well, where she has a point to maybe take a clean slate and she can get rid of some of her emotional baggage, but that would also mean getting rid of her powers, and if she chooses to get rid of her powers, she will not get out of the danger in this instance. So she and Gambit have this long discussion about, we got to take all of it, the good and the bad and the emotional baggage. But it's this fantastic little self-contained series where Kitty Pryde sends Rogue and Gambit to a mysterious island called Paraíso, where a bunch of mutants have been disappearing, and it's this health and wellness spa kind of thing. But they all come back. I
do not trust health and wellness spas.
Oh no!
And the mountains are on islands. I have seen too many horror movies.
Oh no! And this is absolutely. It turns out. Who would have known that this remote island where mutants are disappearing is actually a bad place?
Oh, so yeah. That sounds like a great place for mutants to go.
It's a really fun exploration of the characters, and I don't want to give away too much because it's really great, but there's some shenanigans with clones, and you get to see the full scope of not only Gambit, but also Rogue's incredible costume evolution, because all their clones have a different version of their costumes that are from the classic comics. What? It's amazing, and then they have to fight all those clones like you do.
What?
But I don't want to spoil it. But it's really fantastic, and there was a line that Kelly Thompson included that I think kind of touches on the heroism that we wanted to highlight. Like, Rogue will put herself between other people. She says, "I'm afraid of forever. Every day I fight for everyone's futures but my own." And she's telling this to Gambit because she's saying, "You are forever. And so I'm afraid of you, and that's why I run from you, because I'm fighting for everyone's futures but my own." And then it gets really cute, and if people read X-Men Gold 30, there was a special. I don't know if I want to spoil it. It'll have been out for a while.
Oh my gosh, it's totally spoiled and all over the internet.
Okay, I guess Marvel spoiled it too. So
Marvel spoiled it before the issue. Not Marvel, but who was it that spoiled it before the issue came out?
I don't know.
There was an internet source that did, and we were both very angry that day. Because both of us wanted that Colossus Kitty Pryde wedding.
I was going to say, both companies that had major summer weddings spoiled their twists early.
I know. Why did they do that? Anyways, not the point.
I was going to say, if you read that twist, the X-Men Gold 30, you'll know that Rogue and Gambit decided to get married, and now they are Mr. and Mrs. X, and there's going to be a new series following their married adventures. But that directly spins off of what they learned from each other and kind of overcame in Rogue and Gambit: Ring of Fire. So
that's awesome.
that one is a must read, and it just encompasses the whole scope of their relationship and their perceptions of each other.
So you talked about her costumes.
Yes. Big hair, don't care.
See, it's so funny. I know that most people associate the big hair and everything, but
that's the Jim Lee classic.
Well, that's the Jim Lee, and that's the animated series and everything. But I always like the 80s style where she has just the long, simple Southern hair with the white streak. I also like that costume, like the all black with the like 80s off the shoulder green top, and she's wearing the black gloves, and she kind of has like the Madonna chains on her and stuff like that. But Rogue is also like known for her looks and her costume changes.
When you have to cover yourself up to make sure you don't accidentally come into contact with other people, she at least gets to have some fun with some really cool costumes.
I was just thinking about the like heat wave in LA and how terrible that would be for Rogue.
Ooh.
Just having to be covered up the entire time. But then I also always think about like Savage Land, where like Rogue is basically not really wearing anything. She's like a Jane and just like cave woman type gear, and what that must have been like,
right?
For like in terms of like, oh, don't touch me, yeah, and I mean, there are some instances. I mean, the amount of control she has over her powers has fluctuated in recent years for story writing purposes. I mean, usually when you encounter Rogue, she doesn't have control of her powers, and that's a point of contention in the story because she has to somehow distance herself from teammates. But there are some instances where she's slightly more in control. And then you have instances where she like teams up with Mystique, who like completely wants her to embrace her powers, because that's like what Mystique's all about. Mystique is all about like, this is who you are. This is who you're always going to be. You cannot change that. So you might as well move forward with it. And having like Mystique as this mother figure, and in some cases her actual mother, maybe not, but it's comics.
Comics, everybody.
Yeah, I love whenever you explain comics to everyone, because you're like, well, Mystique is Rogue's mom, but like not actually her mom, but could be her mom, but possibly made from her DNA. So sometimes she's Anna Marie Raven because of Raven. Anyway, yeah. But that's something that I like, where you have. It's interesting that Rogue's powers are absorption, because when you think about her. And this might be one of our through lines for her, besides like her always choosing to put herself between but this kind of goes hand in hand with that, because Rogue also sort of absorbs who she's around. So whatever storyline they're putting her in, when she's with Gambit, she can kind of almost be her truest self because she's empowered, and he loves her exactly the way she is and does not care about the change.
And he also has he's got that Louisiana Creole charm.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Gambit's Bay. Like, there's no way you can like get over him. I mean, come on. But then when you have her most of the time like not in control of a situation until she is. So it's like until she has to step up and be a leader of the Uncanny X-Men, or be some sort of like gatherer of mutants, or be the person who steps between the Cloud and the rest of her people during the whole Inhumans scenario. Until you have that happen, Rogue isn't exactly in control, and then, like I said, and then she is. And then when you have her paired up with someone more like Mystique, you have her paired up with the person who's like the ultimate opposite of who Rogue ultimately is, who like will not put herself between the Cloud and her people. The person who like goes into hiding, like because
she's out for herself.
Because she's out for herself. So to put those two as a pair up, to me, is always so interesting, because Rogue like adopts that part, like certain parts of Mystique's, but she leaves a lot of it. Like she will never be selfish, but she will take that acceptance of who she is to go forward.
Right. And what you were saying about being selfish, like when I think of Mystique, who's benefiting from Mystique's shape-shifting powers besides Mystique? I mean, she's
sometimes a team, but only in like very
evil mutants.
Yeah, but also in very specific scenarios that they have concocted on their own terms.
Right, but Rogue also has a set of powers that, in the wrong hands, could be extremely self-serving. But she never chooses to use her powers like, oh, I'm going to absorb this person's power because I'd like to see what it's like to be this hero for a day. It's if it's in those moments where she has to absorb, it's because I need this strength to save someone else or to save everyone around me.
Right.
Whereas Mystique's like, I'll imitate this person because
it's the one bad day hero, you know, like, or the one good day hero. Like, and put in any other scenario with any other type of person, someone not as strong, not as willing, not heroic, you wind up with the type of person who's like, I'm mad at you, so I'm going to take all your energy and put you in a coma. Like,
Right. and so as much as she thinks her powers are a curse, even when presented with those options to wipe her slate clean and possibly cure herself of her powers or get rid of them and the emotional baggage, Rogue always says, no, I have to continue to be a hero, and I'm the one who will live with this and have to handle it.
And it's interesting to think about that as well, because of what you said, like, what was that Kelly Thompson quote? Like,
I'm afraid of forever. Every day I fight for everyone's futures but my own.
If she wipes her slate clean, she could wind up being the opposite of that. You know, she could wind up being
like, she could have a future, but it would only be her future she could protect. And in that case, she might not even have a future.
Exactly. And then when you think about the comparison between her and Mystique, if she wipes her slate clean and she goes backwards, she could wind up the selfish. She could wind up the evil mutant. She could wind up...
And if she did, she could devastate the Marvel universe.
Exactly. So, I mean... Don't do this, Marvel, but like...
And it's always fun to see in those instances where she does have to absorb someone's powers. If the powers are physical, it also reflects on Rogue.
Yeah.
In the Rogue and Gambit Ring of Fire, there's a really cool moment where she does have to absorb some powers that change the way she looks, and it's actually pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Awesome.
So that's even just a fun cosmetic side effect to her powers. But
so if fans are looking for some modern type Rogue stories, what would you recommend, Kitty?
Absolutely have to do Rogue and Gambit Ring of Fire. I mean, it just got collected in July, and because it delves into the subject of memory and her powers and what would happen if she wipes her slate clean. And there's plenty of Gambit, which is always a plus. I think it's a really, really good actual introduction to the character. And then otherwise, pick up X-Men Gold number 30 if you want to see the wedding twist.
And then
Mr. and Mrs. X are coming out. And then I think the series began in 2015, but that Uncanny Avengers, when she joins the Avengers Unity division, because she does lead the team for a while, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like seeing her as a leader.
So what about classic?
So some classic Rogue stories, you're going to want to pick up Uncanny X-Men throughout the 80s. It has some great just like team stories with her.
I have to go back now and see when she was introduced as a villain.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the Avengers too. 1981, Chris Claremont. It was the annual, so the 1981 Avengers annual. Anyway. Astonishing X-Men Going Rogue is another really good storyline. That one's, I believe, from the early 2000s, so it's a little bit more recent, kind of more in your now scenario, but it is a very like Rogue-based story that you can really get a sense of who she is and her choices that she makes throughout the X universe. So,
and the X-Men animated series is never a bad place to go.
Never. I believe it's all on Hulu now, isn't it? It's on It's on a streaming device, but not Netflix. I know.
I have to find it. That theme song is.
So my first like pop, like what was it called? Like when you first got a cell phone, there was like the beeping, and then as soon as it could be an actual song, mine was that
ringtone.
Yeah, it was a ringtone, but like when it first when you could first get like a song as a ringtone, it was like a monotone beeping sound.
Oh,
like you could only do like the Pink Panther where it was like bop 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 bop, bop like, and then but or you could do but like as soon as you could do actual real songs as your ringtone, mine was like the X-Men. It was on a Motorola Razr, so just so you know. I'm pretty cool like that. So never underestimate the super strength of Southern charm. While she might think her powers are a curse, this fan favorite mutant is one of the mightiest X-Men, and her story has touched the lives of many Marvel fans. Thank you so much for joining us today, because that is Rogue, Then and Now. This has been Then and Now. For more ad-free pop culture news and content, visit geeksideshow.com. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to let your geek side show.